Welcome back, fight fans. Welcome back. Let's just dig right into it. Is Canelo Alvarez a bigger star than Floyd Money Mayweather? Let's just dig right into it. Give you a breakdown from the IBFP's perspective, Boxing Nuke. But we'll also break down a lot of you guys' comments and statements. And let's just start with Matador Hernandez. And he states that he's bigger than Floyd was when he was 28. But overall, no. Lots of room to keep growing, though. And I agree with that sentiment to some degree because, Canelo Alvarez, is in his prime, only 28 years old. He's a massive superstar. And I think, my personal opinion on this is if you look at Canelo Alvarez, he's not as talkative and he doesn't sell the fights the way that Floyd Mayweather Jr. Did. But at the same time, Canelo Alvarez doesn't need to do that to do those numbers. Canelo Alvarez can do big, and million view pay-per-views if he were doing pay-per-views, just like Floyd, without having to go over the top and be crazy. Canelo Alvarez actually has a fan base that supports him compared to one where people just pay to see you lose. So that's a complete different aspect in these two fighters. Both of them are elite level fighters. Both of them are world-class Hall of Famers, once in a generation type of fighters. So we're not taking anything away from their fighting. Both of these guys are tremendous athletes and must be respected. But we're basically answering a lot of the questions that people are having. Is Floyd Mayweather, is Canelo Alvarez surpassed Floyd Mayweather at this point? And I think that, as of right now, boxing terms, boxing wise, Canelo Alvarez has. But I don't think Canelo Alvarez is as big as Floyd Mayweather as far as globally and as a brand, because you have to understand that, Floyd Mayweather reached many different countries. And yes, we see the international appeal from Canelo Alvarez. But Canelo needs the crossover fights. He needs the Callum Smith, the Billy Joe Saunders. He needs those fights in the UK to give him even more worldwide exposure, to, pump up his name and his brand. And he needs to win those fights in dramatic fashion. That's what elevates you and pushes you to superstar status, winning belts in different weight classes, beating fighters from overseas, proving an actual world champion, showing more than what people have even seen from you, not staying stationary or stagnant, fighting the same type of opponent again and again and again. Even Floyd Mayweather fought a Ricky Hatton. So you have to understand that Canelo Alvarez needs to go out and explore those realms. But let's just keep it going. Let's get into Xavier Morales. He states, no, Floyd was hated by people, and people tend to spend money and energy on people they hate than who they like. Canelo has haters, but not like Floyd has and does. That's a very good point and very honest. Gus says getting there, and I agree with Gus as well. Canelo Alvarez really is getting there and to that point. He's doing, record things in the sport. He signs over what I believe $365 million deal, the biggest sports contract by an athlete's in history. So that's tremendous. Canelo Alvarez is doing things that no one has done, breaking records that were set before him. So, Canelo Alvarez is a very special talent. Fighting competition from overseas is only pushing him. Signing with DAZN is only pushing him. Betting on himself, taking guaranteed money over pay-per-view risk. Canelo Alvarez is leading us into the future of boxing, and he's the face as of right now, and I don't think there's any denying that. John Domino says yes. Maldonado S says no because he doesn't speak Spanish. I'm sorry, doesn't speak English. Now, if you look at it like that, Canelo Alvarez can do a million buys without having to speak English, so that's impressive in and of itself. And I don't even think it matters at this point because people only care about what they see in the ring at this point. Floyd spoke English, but there's a lot of guys that speak English. They just simply can't do the numbers that Canelo does. Canelo Alvarez, at the end of the day, his boxing speaks for itself. And I think that that's what matters. The fact that Canelo goes in there, beats the best, fights the best, takes on all comers, takes on all challengers. Canelo Alvarez shows us something that other people simply don't. I mean, even Floyd Mayweather never went undisputed. For all of his accomplishments, for all of the great things that Floyd has done, Floyd Mayweather never went undisputed. He never got all the belts in the weight class at the same time and become an undisputed champion. Canelo Alvarez has to do that in just one more fight. And so I think that would be a huge legacy mark for Canelo Alvarez. I think a legacy asterisk for Floyd Mayweather Jr. is that he fought Conor McGregor. It went on his official boxing record. A novice, a guy who had, made his pro debut, and it helped Floyd capture a record in boxing and being undefeated. And I think at the end of the day, there's an asterisk by that, because, beating a Conor McGregor shouldn't do that for you. At the end of the day, that's an exhibition. That shouldn't even be counted on a boxing record. It's not even a legitimate fight. It's taking nothing away from Floyd's legacy and sales, which are all fantastic and great. He's a Hall of Famer, one of the greatest ever. But if you see Canelo Alvarez, people complained about Canelo fighting Rocky Fielding, who was a world champion at a higher weight class, but no one complains about Floyd fighting Conor McGregor to break a record. At the end of the day, we have to be honest and unbiased in our analysis and what these guys do and mean to the sport. Big L said, can you stop hating black fighters already? Now, Big L, let's be honest. What hateful did I say about Floyd? He's one of the greatest fighters of our generation, maybe the greatest of this past era. There's no hate on Floyd at all. It's a simple comparison and analysis. And you have to understand that you have to get out of your feelings to be honest and unbiased and analyze things. People are going to have different opinions and different perspectives, and it can't just come from one side of the fence. You have to see both sides. And if you're so caught in, just being on one side or seeing things one way, then that makes you a fanboy. But let's just keep it going. Francisco Moreno says, not yet, but he's getting up there, although he already is a boxing superstar. And I agree wholeheartedly with you, Francisco. He is a boxing superstar. And he's pretty much, at this point, he's just a surefire Hall of Famer at this point. I don't think there's any doubt that he's going to be a Hall of Fame fighter at this point. I don't think there's any doubt that everyone knows that he's once in a generational type of fighter. Only at 28 years old, entering his prime, do people already know that Canelo Alvarez has accomplished more than some guys have done in long, heavy careers? So that just shows a lot. Derek Lear says, no way. Floyd makes news, and active fighters still call him out, trying to get that McGregor payday. Now, let's be honest and unbiased. I agree with that to some degree as well. Floyd has such a hate and animosity by a lot of people out there about him. And at the end of the day, Floyd Mayweather can sell fights. He can sell against even lower tier competition. Even Andre Berto, he sold. But at the end of the day, Floyd Mayweather only got record paydays. The biggest paydays there is against the biggest fighters there were. His three biggest paydays came from the three biggest names that he fought. He didn't fight Andre Berto and get the biggest payday of his career. He fought Manny Pacquiao, Conor McGregor, and Canelo Alvarez. Fighting those three men gave him the biggest paydays that he's ever received in his career. He didn't fight, he didn't fight Andre Berto to get that payday. He had to fight the biggest names. And so you have to understand those big names brought a lot to the table. So it wasn't just Floyd selling the fights. And for Canelo Alvarez, he doesn't necessarily have those big names to fight. Canelo Alvarez has to do things that just simply Floyd didn't do, like go undisputed. Canelo Alvarez have to do things out of the ordinary to make sure that he ensures those big, dramatic swings of momentum for him and his brand. And the way to do that is to go undisputed, is to beat champions in a higher weight class, to conquer different divisions, to fight the guys that people say you're afraid of or you won't fight, to take those extra steps. And these are all the steps that Canelo Alvarez are currently taking. SwizzKid 316 states, not yet. If he unifies, then fights Callum Smith in Europe and beats him, yes, then he will become a worldwide superstar. And I think things like that are what propels you. And I agree 100%, SwizzKid. Hey there states, not yet, but will be if he keeps up with what he's doing. He's already done a lot more than Floyd did when he was Canelo age. I agree 100%. That's a very good and accurate statement. Lighting Big Al says no. Max Retzlaff says not yet. Leon 1624 says, I would say yes, people know Floyd, but most people hate him. Canelo has more fans overall. And that is very true statement as well. Canelo Alvarez is, one of the most popular fighters there is in boxing, probably the most popular fighter. Let's just keep it going. And the next one says, Joe says yes. And so, I'm seeing a conclusion here is that people are basing this on, what Canelo's done at this point in his career, how much he's grown, but what he still has more to accomplish, because Canelo's not done. He still has a long career ahead of him, and he still has some major big fights. And I think it's ultimately, and it's a very subjective topic, but at the end of the day, I think it's ultimately up to what Canelo continues to accomplish. I think if Canelo goes undisputed, he's only going to build his brand, and if Canelo Alvarez moves up in weight to 168 and fights, a full-fledged world champion and Callum Smith, and beats him, a guy who's already won the World Boxing Super Series, if he stops him, which would even make him an even huger superstar in the UK, not leaving it in the judges' hands, I think that those are the type of things that will make you an ultimate superstar worldwide, where there's no doubt, there's no question as to how great your legacy truly is. But once again, unbiased as always is the IBFP. Please share, like, and you must absolutely subscribe.